Hello, I am back at it. Here's another video. It's 8:11 a.m. It is December 22nd. It is Monday morning, and I decided to come on here and make a video just to kind of summarize what's been going on in my mind. And, I made a video yesterday, but I didn't upload it. I was basically just kind of summarizing, how throughout this 10-year period of my channel being on YouTube. I know that I've dealt with a lot of shadow banning, low count numbers because of my channel being manipulated by the Collins as well as the kids of 533. Unfortunately, they had the connections at the time to do these sort of things because they didn't want me to have any sort of recognition. They wanted to keep me in a complete and total control, have access to me, use me, however they wanted to. And I had mentioned the possibility of Bruce using me as like a backup, like if something didn't work out with Sarah, then he could, somehow finagle his way back in. I have been abused, and this is a very common form of abuse that goes on in relationships of different kinds, whether that be family relationships, domestic spouse relationships, siblings, parents, stalking, whatever. I also know that, I stopped communicating with people because the Collins, as well as the Gordon family, the kids of 533, were encouraging other people to ostracize me. Okay, now I would like to say that I understand at this point I'm really not that comfortable with communicating with people because of the magnitude of the mind control program. And yes, I would call this a form, it is a mind control program. Why? Because people just blindly followed along and they used religion to convince people to do this, okay? I already talked about the different denominations, why this is hypocritical, why it's abusive, why it's illegal, why it's not scriptural, why it's, not, it's against secular law. It is just people doing bad things, okay? So at this point, I am moving on with my life, okay? I'm moving on with my life. I'm moving straight forward to doing whatever it is I want to do. And it's time for me to forget the people that I used to know. And I've been saying this for the longest time, and yet these people would do everything they could to stay in my life. I do feel as though now I'm finally making some breakthrough, and it has been a very devastating journey, and the heartache that I've experienced coming to understand that my son was also abused. It's just a little too much for me to deal with, okay? So now there's a lot of floaty things in the air right now. It looks like there's like, I don't know, I need to dust in here is what I really need to do. The sunlight's in and I can see like there's little dust particles, and I'm just really not happy about that. But anyway, so I'm working on my newsletter, and last newsletter I wanted to wrap it up. Like I really did not want to have to start talking about the drama, the people that I used to know, the pain that they cause, my suspicions of what they're doing behind the scenes, the 949, Bruce Collins, Rashawn Gordon, who is it, trying to identify. To summarize it, I do understand that Rashawn played a very large role in this. And this is the same sort of tactics he used when we were kids on the playground. And it escalated into what this is. Okay. And yes, I will refer to it as mind control. Like I said, this was people, taking his word at face value and not questioning. And also, he used people's emotions to propel his agenda. Okay. You notice that a lot of overweight women were recruited for this. So they used their discontentment, right? He used their discontentment as a tool, right? Their discontentment with themselves, and fueled these people with a fire, a very bullying type of energy. And this is what we dealt with, okay? This sort of behavior is obviously illegal, okay? But it is also something that plays on people's mind. Rashawn was a master manipulator of mind control. Okay, and I would say he probably learned these techniques from the Palladian kids and the kids who probably grew up with people, utilizing COINTEL tactics on them. Okay, so Rashawn was a very mentally ill and disturbed person. Okay, and I think it's very obvious now. He let a lot of people take a fall for what he initiated. Okay, and so this was a very dangerous thing that people involved themselves in. So I already talked about that. Um, I understand how these sort of mind control operative programs have affected society, not just in the United States, but everywhere, mainly because it was very mainstream, and this sort of infiltration was just by everywhere. It was in churches, for one thing, right? Talking about the chosen ones. And then we have people in neighborhoods, in little communities, getting together to, bully up on people. And also, I would say the distortion of Christianity. People have used religion as an excuse to do these sort of crimes, whether it be human trafficking, bullying people, keeping women suppressed, forcing women into marriages. I had mentioned my suspicions of possibly Rashawn using these tactics to keep Melissa. Okay. Because, like I said, Melissa, Rashawn, I don't get the connection. I just don't. Okay. So, what I'm saying is that I am tired, and I'm not going to put up with people using Christianity as an excuse anymore. It's just done. Okay. So you can sit here and call it anything you want to. You might as well just call it what it is. You're either jealous, competitive, immature, or unable to deal with your feelings, handle things. You're immature, right? Because this is not how you act out. You don't act out on other people or rage war against other people because, number one, somebody has a lifestyle that you don't understand. Okay. Or you don't like. Okay. I have the right to live my life the way that I want to. Okay. And also, you do not enforce religion in a public setting. This is one of the reasons why I really appreciate what the founding fathers could see, and why they chose to set this country up the way that it was. This is exactly the kind of stuff that it causes. Okay. So basically, to summarize it, I realized that people, anything outside of myself, people, social interactions, my life has been filled with products of these control programs, meaning, and I've been attacked pretty much all my life. I have pretty much only dealt with, conniving people, manipulative people, people who are brainwashed, all kinds of sick people within my family unit, within the kids I went to school with, co-workers, and these are the same people who bullied up on me. Okay. And it was deeper. Like I said, I had a feeling that this was getting deeper. It was deeper than just, some girl bullying me at Murray Family Farms. This was a very deep, deep issue. Okay. And it goes all the way back. Okay. And I came to I was a clone and all this other stuff. So I decided to change modes on my newsletter a little bit. So I've been talking about, my discoveries with the, check fraud that went on over at Valley Strong Credit Union. I'm done. I don't want to think about it anymore. Okay. So I'm going to write about other things in my newsletter because I feel as though okay, my life and the people that were in it was darkness. This is one of the reasons why I decided to move to Bakersfield in the first place. Okay, because I wanted to, at the time, I still wanted to maintain a relationship with them because they were, at least, I used to consider them my family. I no longer do. But at the time, I didn't want to move too far away, so I thought Bakersfield would be close enough. Okay. I always, I think people can tell that I've always, you know, I cared about them at one time, but I always made it point to be distant from them. Okay. I feel intruded upon. I feel violated. And yes, I feel psychologically devastated by what these people did. Okay. And I can't get over it. So it's time for me to move on. So today I'm wearing this shirt, right? And I think I've only worn it twice. And the reason why I'm wearing it is I'm wearing it in honor of the Bakersfield as well as the Lancaster Masonic Temple. Now you notice this is a black and white pattern, right? It looks like the floors in the Masonic Temple. I just wanted to wear this because it's important that uh, people who are associated with the Masonic Temple do not misuse their power for things that are crooked and corrupt. Okay. And, that can actually happen in any organization when people do things and use their position or maybe what they have opportunities in these places and they do bad things. And I do believe that the Collins were doing bad things, And anyway, I'm moving on from that. And I do want people to understand that I'm somebody who doesn't like to cause friction, but I also appreciate my lifestyle. Okay, I do appreciate my lifestyle, and I do see the value in being who you are. And this is who I am. Okay, these are the things I love. These are the things that give me emotional stability. And this is what we are supposed to strive for in life. Okay, everybody has something that gives them emotional stability. Some people, it's they come home from work, they want to prop their feet up on the couch, and they don't care about fashion, they don't care about, anything else. That right there, to just prop their feet up on the couch and maybe, like, pull up maybe a nice toss pillow and have their dog sitting beside them, that is their little point of where they find contentment. And for other people, it's something else. Okay, and for me, this is how I am. And I was thinking about certain individuals, that I had seen on Instagram, that I'm going to be highlighting in the my newsletter, that I feel are pretty unique individuals. You know what I mean? I don't know much about their life. It's just I think about, okay, here it hits this way. Okay, um, there's a lot of things that we feel as adults that we know are a very big part of our life, and we deal with people who are in our lives who constantly try to convince us that this is not the way to go, even though this is the only way that we feel any sort of emotional balance. So I understand throughout the years, and I think this was highlighted in places like Murray Family Farms constantly, right? Because I live a very a different life, okay? And this is by not because how could I say, by circumstance, okay? Me being CB Braganza, having a history, I didn't know this at the time, but this put me in a situation where I find myself in positions of solitude. Also, I know that the kids of 533, as well as the Collins family, they were purposely isolating me. They did not want people to be a part of my life. They wanted 100% control over who I was friends with and who I interacted with. Okay, that right there is evil. Okay, I have the right to talk to who I want to. Okay, but see, these people created a world for me. So I remember I always felt like I was different because most people my age would be off at PTA meetings, or they would be doing whatever. Okay, they were doing, I don't know, taking their kids to soccer practice, and I was going home and doing something completely different. And because I didn't have, either my son was old enough to do whatever he wanted, I just had time on my hands. Okay, and people acknowledged that I was constantly being focused on, like, I wasn't like everybody else, like I didn't have a husband and all this other stuff. And this has been the case in a lot of my jobs. And when I was married to Joel, people were talking about how I don't make dinner, like, stay the hell out of my business already. Okay, and I do believe that these sort of these intrusions into my personal life, right, I found very offensive. I also feel as though that the Collins policy, as well as the kids of 533, were possibly targeting me even when I was married to Joel. I really do believe this. They probably were the ones who destroyed my relationship with Joel. Why? Because they wanted control of me 100%. Okay, because when I was married to Joel, like I said, he never complained, and no, I do not want to get back together with Joel. My point is that he never complained about my wigs. He never complained about my clothes. He bought me sewing machines. He bought me fabric. He bought me clothes. He bought me everything. Okay, anything he wanted to bring, all the girly shit that I wanted, he would bring it to me. He never complained. So if your husband's not complaining about it, what the hell makes you think you have the right to, right? But these people want to have all these sort of dictations. So when you see people controlling other people and the aspects of their life, you need to understand that this is not normal. Okay, you should call the Department of Human Trafficking on people like that. Now, maybe they may not respond automatically, or they may not even think that that's something substantial. But somehow people need to start keeping track of who gets reported to these sort of agencies, because this is an indication of somebody having control over another adult. People who want to put your house under surveillance, people who want you monitored, regular people. Now, I'm not talking about people who have the right to do this, okay? Like people like the FBI, people like the CIA. I know they've done crooked things, okay? But still, okay? People like maybe the White House wants to sit here and investigate me. That's something different. If they show these credentials and they can prove it, then they have the right to do it. But these people don't. Okay, so what these people do is an abuse of power. Okay, and I did a video a while ago, it was about 4 years ago, about a segment where this woman was they took a bunch of people and were telling them to do stuff, and these people were dumb enough to do it. You know what I mean? Not dumb enough, but just they just don't think, they don't question authority. Okay, and so now we have this tragedy that happened in this community, right? and people who are incapable of taking accountability for what they've caused. Okay. And this to me is very eye opening. Apparently, it's very eye opening to a lot of people. It's eye opening to a lot of people here in this country and other places. There's videos on YouTube where people are talking about what's going on in the Chosen One, this particular community, the horrible things that happened to these people. These people were brainwashed. Okay. And it's the same sort of techniques. Rashawn knows how to use these techniques because these techniques have been played out on him, and this is what he knows. And people are receptible because this is all they've been doing all their entire life. Like I said, society has a lot of work to do. And see, I want to be a part of that. You know what I mean? As a matter of fact, I'm the pioneer of it. We need to move forward with removing ignorance. We can't have people like this. We can't have ignorance like this. We can't have people who are walking out of, 4-year colleges and they're absolutely ignorant. And they're falling back on religion to run the workplace. And the religion that's not even doctrinal. It's just coming out of their ass willy nilly. Okay? So there needs to be structure. And see, this is what I believe. I believe in structure. Okay. And I'm not saying rigid because I understand if we don't have the ability to think for ourselves and be flexible, we don't enjoy our lives. And this is what I'm talking about. We have people who want to destroy the light and love out of people, each individual. And see, when I look at some of these people on like Instagram, like there's this one girl, I will be featuring her. Hopefully, I'll be featuring her in my newsletter. I don't remember her name, but I know she stands out to me because she looks like one of those white chicks that I used to see back in the 80s, okay? The chicks with the dark eyeliner, the goth type looking people. Okay, people would roll their eyes at people like her, but the thing is, there's something about that she's attracted to. It is a part of her balance, just like, eating food in the morning or eating, drinking, and doing the regular things. And same thing with me. You know what I mean? Like beautification is within my soul. Like to cut me off from it is like you might as well just blow my brains out. And see, the Collins were playing with my comfort zone. Nobody has the right to play with my comfort zone. And they were dismissing me because I was a clone. Okay, nowhere in the law does it say that I'm supposed to be dismissed because I'm a clone. Where do they get this? They want to bend and shape rules to please themselves. And I would say a lot of people who are of the cloning system probably get treated like this by their families. Why? Because you were just a burden baby in the first place. Okay, so you get abused. You get abused. I was abused. Okay, and I don't appreciate people trying to cut me off from the things that I love. And these are the things that I love. And by the way, so my thing is that as an adult, I understand when I was a teenager, I understood that I've slowly started understanding this is who I am. This is what I love in life. This is what I choose to surround myself with. I want my house always open to arts and crafts, right? And the reason why is I have like, things in my house laid out like my sewing machine, arts and crafts and stuff like that. Because back in the 90s, when I used to have people over at my house, I liked people hanging out at my house. So if seriously, if somebody came over like, dude, I want to do the arts and crafts, like people hung out and do arts and crafts, cook in my house, hang out in my house. I live a very open lifestyle. So yes, my house was open. Unfortunately, I was prevented from having any sort of social interactions because the Collins and the kids of 533 prevented me from having friends. I kid you not. How selfish can you be, right? Okay, wrong. It was just absolutely a nightmare. Okay, but Sarah, my house is open. Like, I enjoy things and I want a house where people come over and it's enjoyable. I like that sort of environment, right? And I also knew that this is who I am. I like these things. I like makeup, I like clothes, and this is a part of me. And see, I look at there's a professional person in everybody, and I do believe that there's a specific niche or where they're supposed to go. When you're a victim of human trafficking, sometimes, I've been placed in jobs that were not meant for me. And I feel as though it was a way of them trying to put me in these positions to either modify my behavior, which is wrong, okay? But why do they think that using certain things, or why are they so obsessed with trying to modify somebody's behavior and utilize these techniques? Is because they themselves have been victims or within programs within these sort of COINTEL mind control programs. So they set you up in these jobs, right? They set these jobs using these mind control techniques, right? And then it's in the things that they tell other people to say to me to try to convince me that, if you're moving up if you want to move up, then you need to start changing in this way. I would say that that would be correct if I want to be a part of this. I have a vision, okay? And I'm a visionary. This is the reason why I did not agree with this particular group. Okay? Because I believe that there's a niche for people like me. There's a niche for the girl who dresses all in black and she reminds me of the 80s. There's companies that pretty much cater, feature, and make products for people who live alternative lifestyles, and these are the sort of jobs that they're supposed to be in. You know what I mean? Instead of saying, "Oh, I'm going to put you in this particular job, and then we're going to make you wear a uniform." I'm going to tell you what. When you are at work, you should be as highly vibrational as you can. You want to be fully engaged in what you're doing. You don't care about what you're doing when somebody's making you feel suppressed, when somebody's dimming your light. Yes, your light is important, okay? Because you know what your light is? It's drive. That's what it is. Your light is drive. So like, some people are like, they love office attire. I love office attire, and sometimes I like to spruce it up a little bit, maybe add a scarf or something, maybe a little pennant or something, throw it on there. And then there's some people who they don't care about that kind of stuff, okay? But I do. Okay, and I don't believe in separating ourselves, and I don't think it's a sign of maturity. This is another the topsy turvy BS that mainstream thinking is. Okay, that you're getting older now. You need to sit here and show that responsibility. You need to drop that person that you are and step into this person, right? Okay, so let's just say we'll take this goth chick that I'm talking about. This is who she is. She eats, drinks, sleeps, goth. That's what she is. She is this way all the time, and chances are it probably relates to her past life. Now, what's trippy about this girl? I'll talk a little bit more about her. Why I find her fascinating is because there's people who wear retro clothing, right? And it's like, yeah, you're doing it some respect to that outfit, or it's a rendition of it, okay? But when she wears these outfits, she literally gives off the vibe. Like I sometimes keep looking at her like, am I looking at my high school yearbook? Am I in the 80s? She really gives off that vibe. So it could be something deeper than that. She could very well be, she might be a clone herself. She might have been around in the 80s. Okay. And so what I'm saying is it is a part of who you are. So it is not in any way a sign of maturity to give up who you are to pretend to be somebody else. This is what I'm talking about, this twisted thinking that goes on that I personally believe is highly promoted and a part of things like the CIA operative type programs. How in the world is that supposed to make you better by pretending to be somebody else? Okay. Sorry, I just got interrupted. How is that gonna? That's not gonna make you be anyone else. What she needs to do, or people like that need to do, is they need to find where they need to go. Okay, it would be hard for somebody like her to possibly work like in a law office. She probably wouldn't be in a law office. But maybe there might be a law office that specializes in young type people or people who are moving into different avenues. Okay, or maybe she needs, I always use Hot Topic. Like Hot Topic was a place I used to go to in the 90s that would sell a lot of cool things, right? But maybe she could be like a CEO for a Hot Topic. I'm saying is that there is a place for everybody. And see, when people try to put pressure on people to be what they're not, it becomes a nightmare. And it becomes a nightmare. But this is a sort of mind control techniques that people used to do and enact out on other people in public form, much like what happened here in this Bakersfield community. Okay, trying to enforce people or bully people, menticide is what they call it, menticide. You either do this or we'll kill you type stuff. And it's like, I've lost a lot of respect for people. Okay. And yes, I have cut ties with people that I used to know. I no longer speak to, and nor will I ever speak to the kids of 533 anymore. But also, I think what else is surprising about this, and an indication of the deep conditioning of mind control in this issue, is the fact that once I realized that I was adopted, it was completely inappropriate for these people to have anything to do with me. Just the sheer fact that this was an obvious attempt to exploit somebody that they looked at as the other that they wanted to abuse. Okay, so the mind control, the systematic program of this what do you call it, bullying, should have stopped right there. Okay, Rashawn was a what you call it. I said it jokingly when I was a kid, but now I realize how prophetic that really was. I used to say, man, Rashawn could be like a, what do you call it, a cult leader, is what he. I used to say it as a joke, right? Because Rashawn and I would watch movies about, like, for example, we watched Helter Skelter together. We watched, stuff like this together. So I kept thinking, I noticed that Rashawn was very influential. Like, people would follow what he would say. You know what I mean? And I remember saying this as a joke. I now realize that was actually prophetic. Okay, because he led a lot of people to their downfall, and that's too bad. And it's time to move on. Okay, it's time to move on. So I want to talk about people that I really like on Instagram, and I will be featuring her. And there are people who come from different cliques and different lifestyles, you know what I mean? And they carry these lifestyles over into their other life, you know what I mean? And I have lived several lives, and I would say that there's a little bit of part of me in each. There's a little bit of each life inside of me. And see, I think what some people in Christianity were, or in my past lives, what they didn't understand that. Now they understand the complexities. But you know what? It's interesting. It's like how deep this runs in us. That's what's important to understand. It's like, yes, we do indeed carry over these things. You know what I mean? That's amazing. If that should be some research for the cloning ops, as well as people who are studying this issue. Okay, because I think it's quite fascinating. So yeah, I'm excited to get started on get back on my newsletter. The message I'm getting right now is, I am already transforming workplaces. Many people have lost their jobs, and people are reporting abusive managers. I'm glad. Okay, I'm glad. It's time for things to get better for people. I believe that people should have better lives. People should enjoy their jobs. They should be more engaged in their work. They should be happy about going to work. And I want people to focus on their personal lives, right? To fuel their purpose. Go to work to fuel your personal life. Okay. That is what work-life balance is. Okay. And do so happily. Throw yourself into your work, and maybe do find something that you find happiness in, joy in. You know what I mean? That's what I do. Okay. And I feel contentment with it. I'm content. I don't feel as though, I feel as though what this form of Christianity, or this cult that Rashawn created, it was very dark, and it made things very difficult. And I'm upset because I feel, yeah, I feel disturbed about the abuse. I feel disturbed that not only did he abuse me, but he abused my son. Okay. And I do want to say that I appreciate my son, and I'm very grateful. I respect my son, and I never wanted my son to have to make these sort of sacrifices, because I believe each generation should be better. Since I struggled and dealt with a lot of depression in my 30s, I never wanted my son to have to do that. So you best believe I'm angry. I'm very angry. Okay. Every generation should improve themselves. And, imagine life without having to deal with bullying. You know what I mean? Or if people can really enjoy their careers without having to worry about bullying. You know what I mean? Trying to figure ways out to, and I understand it. Like I do. I believe there should be a tone. There should be a complete, and I'll talk more about this in my future videos. But yes, I'm 100% driven for workplace education. I do believe I'm 100% qualified to talk about this. Not, I am a social scientist. I think that I've proven my point. So I just call myself an occupational engineer because I'm utilizing all these skills under one, what do you call it, under one profession. But yes, I'm somebody who studies social science. I understand psychology. I understand how law applies, and I believe it all needs to be a part of the workplace. I'm going to wrap up this video. I'll be back with another video sometime later. Take care. Bye-bye.